What is good, everyone? How are we doing today? It is Friday, March 27th. Oh, shit. Don't mind that. But as I was saying, it's Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. How are we doing? And today I'm going to be going over today's price action, the two opportunities, one I actually took and one I didn't. And let's just go ahead and get right into it. But before I get into it, this is my new Discord. It is coming soon, very, very soon, I promise you. I'm going to be posting my daily biases, my trades I'm taking, trade ideas, profits, wins, losses, everything around the sun. So I'm going to be providing this information to you guys for completely free. Everyone's going to have access to this. It's a completely free server. And yeah, I'm very excited to get it launched soon. I'm still working on it, still getting some things set up. But the reason I'm talking about it right now is because I do post my daily biases. And here I'm just going to quickly show you that we were just very bearish. And as you can see, we have no major draws. Our higher time frame bias is incredibly bearish. As you can see, this is a weekly chart. And look how fast we're selling down. Usually when we see such signs of such fast sell-off, that is huge bearish pressure and we can continue to go south. We have no gaps. We have no real moves. The only thing we have is continuous trend to the downside. And as you can see, our major two draws on liquidities are these equal lows right here and also this weekly fair value gap. And overnight, we ended up selling off around 400 points. So that's something to keep in mind as we were incredibly bearish throughout the night and through the day. And we did create more bearish gaps above us like the hourly and 4 hour, which we definitely can take advantage of if price wants to open up, tap those and take shorts from that. So coming into the day, this is exactly what I showed you guys on the Daily Bias Discord. As you can see, we are clearly trending lower. We have no motive to go up whatsoever. On the 4 hour time frame, as you can see, we are just continuing lower. We're disrespecting all of our bullish gaps. We're delivering from buy side and we're just continuing down, right? We have this 4 hour gap right above us. And more importantly, coming into the day, we had this hourly, which is a way better target since this 4 hour was a lot higher than this hourly. And when we're in such bearish order flow and we have such pressure to go lower, price isn't necessarily going to go up to the 4 hour gap and instead might just tap an hour gap instead. So this hourly gap was my biggest motive and I wanted to see price trade up here and take shorts from that. That was honestly my biggest conviction for any type of trade. I really didn't want to just take shorts mindlessly because if we didn't end up tapping that and instead we were just respecting a 5 minute or something like that, we really just don't have too much conviction. Obviously, I love taking trades in 5 to 15 minute fair value gaps. However, when we just have nothing below us as support and we're not really bouncing off of any higher time frame intervals, then it's really hard to have too much proof and conviction that price is going to continue downwards, or at least continue downwards immediately instead of maybe coming back up, retracing into a higher time frame gap. So this is 9:25. This is 5 minutes before market opens. And as you can see, we are trading in this 5 minute bearish gap. And I'm going to go ahead and skip along some time so you can see what ends up happening. 9:30, immediately we displace lower. Now, this wasn't something I was too particularly happy about just because, like I said, my main goal was for price to come up to this hourly gap and then take shorts. Now, price manipulating down wasn't too horrible. I would just have to wait for a 5 or 15 minute gap to get created, and then I would take continuation shorts off of that. However, I would just have been a lot more confident if we were going to take shorts from an hourly gap instead of a 5 minute gap. And this is 5 minutes after market opens, and we're just pushing lower. Now, this is something I saw a lot of people do or want to take. After a few minutes into the market, I believe this was at 9:39, 5 minutes, we ended up creating this bearish for value gap, and a lot of people wanted to inverse this and go for a bullish play and maybe go long if we did inverse this. Now, honestly, I really didn't oppose this, even though I've been incredibly bearish. And the only reason I'm saying that is because maybe after we inverse this, we could have taken longs to the hourly gap. And after that hourly gap, then we could potentially take a short all the way to the downside. Now, I wasn't really opposed to this. However, I just had no bullish conviction whatsoever. So I was not going to place a trade when we're in such bearish order flow, right? Sometimes price could just end up respecting this 5 minute gap and just push down, because that was something else that could have happened. If we didn't displace through this, then we could have easily just tapped into this gap we created and then continue lower from there. Maybe we get an inversion here and then we can take it down to this swing low. Or price could have continued to go up to this hourly and then go all the way low. So just a quick recap, there are 3 scenarios I want to be play. One is we disrespect this gap and we can take a potential long up here, even though that's not my favorite situation. That's probably like the worst one I would take, or the last one I would take. Second situation is we just don't take this long. We wait for price to finally tap this hourly gap and then we take shorts. And third situation is that we just respect this 5 minute gap. We tap into it and then we just continue shorts. There's nothing wrong with a continuation short off a 5 or 15 minute fair value gap. That is something I do a lot of trades. However, I just personally would rather have an hourly gap instead of a 5 minute. but sometimes it doesn't play out. Sometimes price is not going to really retrace all the way up here. And if you're wondering on ES, we did not have any SMTs, or ES did not end up sweeping that high. So honestly, EOS was kind of irrelevant. It was the leading asset in the beginning. However, I really don't pay too much attention to ES. That's a whole other topic about SMTs and everything, but that's just personally not my cup of tea. I only really use it as an extra layer of conviction that price wants to go in my direction, but I'm not going to solely take a trade just because of an SMT. Now, in this case, 10 minutes after market opening, we have that 5-minute gap. I'm just going to go ahead and mark this out. And now, honestly, I would be super fine with taking a short off of this. So we tap into this gap and we have 1 minute and 2 minute inversions. And I always go for the highest time frame. So this is a perfect gap to mark out. If this gets displaced through, this would have been a perfect short, right? We have a 2-minute inversion after tapping to a 5-minute gap. We could have our stop loss at the body or even the wick, and our take profit at the major swing low we created, right? It is always important to have our draws on liquidity already played out. You have to follow a narrative. You do not want to be mindlessly taking trades. You want to be able to paint the picture out in your head before and see if the trade actually follows. So market displaced lower, we created this major low, which is our main draw. Then we displaced up, we retapped into a 5-minute bearish gap, and now we want to continue short. This is a perfect A+ setup in my opinion. I mean, honestly, the only thing that would have made it A+++ is if we had the hourly gap. However, in this situation, we just decided to tap into that 5-minute just because price doesn't always need to retrace all the way higher, even though we did have a lot of liquidity up that we did not take out. And now somehow we got completely wrecked in this position because on the next candle, look at this closure. Now, I would have loved if this candle would have closed like here, and that way we could have just taken our entry. We would have gotten a beautiful trade, like a nice 1-4 RR trade or something along that. However, our candle just displaced so heavily to the downside that if we were to enter off of this, bro, like this entry is cooked. Even if we had our stop loss at the wick of that candle, like seriously, like we're not taking a 0.22 R trade. And obviously, like this draw is super obvious. Price clearly wants to go there. But after this close, you can't really justify hopping in this trade. And what ends up happening next is that we just completely go lower, and we displace and we hit TP. Now, this trade idea was perfect. However, but obviously I use the highest time frame inversions as those guarantee the highest win rate percentages. The 2-minute was the highest, and after that 2-minute candle close, we just really didn't have an entry. So that was trade idea number 1. And one other thing I would like to preface is that I could have so entered off of the 1-minute gap instead. As you can see, we had the 1-minute inversion fair value gap. We displaced through that completely, and after that candle inverse, we could have easily had our entry right here, our stop loss, take profit at the low, or we could even chase that 1-to-1 if you really wanted to, and it would have played out perfectly. Now, this trade, I'm not going to say it was better than the 2-minute. However, if you did enter off a 1-minute inversion, even though we had a 2-minute, that is perfectly acceptable in certain situations, and this is one of them. Because you have to realize that when we are so bearish overall and we have so much conviction that price is going to go down, you don't necessarily need to wait for the highest time frame. Yes, waiting for the highest time frame inversion is going to give you a lot more confirmation and is going to just overall make your win rate higher, as you know that it's a higher guarantee that price is going to continue down in that direction. But in this case, when we had so much conviction and it was so clear that price was going to push down, resweep these major lows, and just go to our big draws in liquidity, which is our major equal lows down here, as well as the fair value gap, it is okay to take a 1-minute. However, I am very strict. I always follow my rules to a T, usually, because that is just what keeps my win rate at the highest. That is what has been able to let me be consistently funded, consistently profitable with the high win rate. And yeah, that is just my overall conviction, you know, like I'm just going to wait for this, even though when we had a minute, we could have gotten such a better entry. However, me personally, I prefer playing it safe. I'd rather have a higher win rate instead of trying to get a better entry and chasing a higher RR, because sometimes it doesn't play out, you know. Maybe we got the 1-minute inversion and decided to go up back to the hourly and then dump. So that's why I just didn't take it. However, if you did take it, that was a good trade. That's something maybe I would have considered, but I usually am pretty keen with my rules, because you have to realize that the only reason I got to where I am and have been able to be consistently profitable and funded and have this high win rate is because I follow my rules. And if I were to make constant exceptions for them, like saying, oh, order flow is incredibly bearish and etc., then I would just be breaking my rules, and then I really wouldn't have a foundation. I wouldn't have a structure. And that's something every single trader experiences and has to find out through their journey. For me, I found out when I stick to my rules and I say, okay, I'm only trading under these circumstances. If this happens, then I'm going to wait for it. It hasn't failed me. It's done me good. And there's no reason, maybe I miss out on one trade. Obviously, this is a rare situation where on a 1 minute time frame, you would have gotten a really good entry, and a 2 minute time frame, you would have been cooked. But, it happens. I'm not going to be upset about it. That's just the overall truth. And yeah, this is just a really good trade. We were obviously displacing lower. We had a 5 minute fair value gap. We swept that 5 minute intermediate high, created a 1 minute and 2 minute inversion, and took shorts to that swing low that we created. Perfect textbook play. If we would have gotten a better close on that 2 minute, this would have been an absolute banger. I would have definitely put a decent amount of risk on it, knowing that price wasn't really trying to go up to that hourly fair value gap. But yeah, I love this trade. This is everything I'm looking for. Completely matches my model, what I want to do. And yeah, if you took this, great job. All right, so the second trade I actually took was this right here. And let me just show you guys why I took this. Obviously, we had the hourly gap above us, which we did tap into, and we were continuing down. We have no signs of bullish movement whatsoever, and we're just continuing to push down. And all this was a classic continuation short. As you can literally see, we are in the biggest downtrend ever. There's no bullish motive whatsoever. And in this situation, what ends up happening after we continue to sell off, we created a 5 minute fair value gap. And after we created this gap, we ended up tapping back into it. And once price tapped back into this 5 minute bearish gap, I was looking for another short opportunity. And what ends up happening was on the highest time frame, we had a 4 minute inversion. My trading view just froze. Okay, here we go. So after we created that 5 minute fair value gap, price ended up retapping into it. And now I'm looking for a short off of that. Obviously, we were continuing with our bearish order flow. We were looking for shorts to the downside. We had those major draws on liquidity, which we could have been targeting. Maybe not today, but we were definitely pushing toward those, as you can see. And on the 4 minute, if my trading view is going to work, there we go. So on the 4 minute, after we tap this, we did create this gap right here, as you can see, and the next candle displaced heavily throughout this. Now this is a beautiful A+ trade. As you can see, we created this, we had heavy displacement, and as you can see, we can just have our short position right here. We had our stop loss at the body of a candle with our take profit at this major swing low that we created before. And this is exactly what we want to see, right? It's much better for us to wait for clear structure and have better draws than to just take a random short throughout. As you can see, we started pushing down, we created this major low, we came back up, tapped into a 5 minute bearish fair value gap, and now we actually have a target that we can aim for. And that's exactly what we did. We had our inversion gap on a 4 minute time frame. And the thing with this is I actually believe that the 4 minute was the only one. Like, we didn't have a 3 minute, we didn't have a 2 minute. I think maybe we had a 1 minute. Yeah, we did have 1 minute's, like a very tiny one. But the 4 minute was our highest time frame inversion, and as you can see, we clearly displaced. Heavy displacement is such a great sign of price actually going to where you want to draw to. And so I entered here my target at this major low that we created, and immediately after that, the price started shooting up. As you can see, we almost hit our stop loss from that, and I was like, okay, like that's kind of interesting, but it was just a fake out, and we ended up pushing down, smack TP. And this trade was about a 1 RR trade. As you can see, 0.95, close enough. I just had my target at the major low. I could have pushed for a 0.05 extra to get that 1 RR, but I just had it at the low. That's what I always do. Once I have a clear draw, that's what I target. I'm not going to just target an aimless 1-to-1. A lot of times I do. However, in this case, since we didn't really have any other draws under us besides like our weekly, I just decided to play it safe, keep it at this draw, and that's exactly what we ended up hitting. All right, and I believe that is all I have for you. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. This video is pretty good. We had 2 really great trade ideas. One, obviously, we just didn't get the entry, but that's okay. You know, it happens. You can't be greedy. You can't be just chasing those super high RRs. Even though it wasn't even a high RR, it was just an earlier time frame inversion, but you know what I'm getting at. And I want you to notice that trade 1 and trade 2 were the exact same trade. We were clearly in sell side conditions. We just completely were dumping lower. We created our major low. Price retraced up into a 5 minute gap where we swept our intermediate high, and then we created a 1 minute or 2 minute inversion off of that. The first trade, it was a 1 and 2. The second trade, it was a 4 minute. We created an inversion after tapping into that gap and sweeping that intermediate high, and took a continuation short down to that major low that we created. They were the exact same trades. And that is what is so important. It's not pattern trading. It's just recognizing that, okay, in these conditions, this is what I want to see happen. And this is exactly how it's going to play out. Now, I really hope this video was informational. Had a great day today. Great way to end the week. It's Friday. I'm going to go chill, go edit some videos, go make some more content for you guys. I'm working on my Discord right now and my site. So I have such big things coming for you guys. I am so incredibly excited. And yeah, honestly, that's all I can say. I really don't have anything else. If you took the trades today, great job. And if you didn't, then I'm going to be launching my free PDF, free guide on my model, free daily biases, free psychology, risk management, everything you need to be profitable, to hit banger trades like this. That's all coming very soon. Stay tuned. It is going to be worth the wait. But that's all I have for you guys. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, whatever you can do. Anything is completely and utterly appreciated to the highest extent. And yeah, that's enough talking for me. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. Enjoy it. You guys work hard. You deserve some time off. Time to chill, hang with friends, family, do whatever you guys need. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.